Hello, everyone, and welcome to this coffee today. Today we are not live because Skype didn't want to help us. We couldn't do the video live, but Rafiq is here, really passionate. Thank you for your passion, Rafiq, and welcome to the coffee.
Thank you. Thank you. I only have a little bit of coffee left, like two sips.
Yeah, but it's good that we can do it now, and we can. And for me, it's good. It's like a learning because I hear some parts, and now I can a little more in depth.
That was crazy.
So
But
yeah,
that was interesting for anybody that might have been there live when we were trying to do it live. You all, as somebody who pitches, you're pitching all the time, and things go wrong. Technology doesn't work.
yes,
The key thing is to just remain calm, and whatever the reason is, you can always come back and do it again. And so here we are,
yeah.
we're doing it again, and we'll be able to post it, and it's fine. Life will go on.
Yeah, what can we do? If Skype doesn't want to work with us, we go to Google. We
Yeah,
change.
exactly.
And
But
it's true,
thank
we are always pitching
we
everything,
we
everywhere.
are. We'll get into that in more detail. But first of all, thank you for having me. I know you're on vacation in Spain, so
Yes,
you
yes,
and I
I'm
have been
here on
talking.
holiday. But it's really nice always having a coffee with you and talking and learning from you.
Well, we shared a lot of pandemic stories, didn't we?
Yes,
Especially early on, and it's nice
yes,
to
true.
go home. So I'm happy for
Yes,
you.
thank
Um,
you.
yeah, hopefully we
Thank you.
come
Thank
through
you.
all this. But yeah, thanks for having me. So yeah, go ahead. Let's do this.
Yeah, can you first introduce yourself and tell us a little about your background so then we know a little more about your
Sure,
story?
sure. So I'm Rafiq Ahmed. I'm with Dipalo Ventures in Chicago, great American city. And I am basically, somebody that's always been building products, software and hardware, been involved with innovation. Came to the States to go to college. I'm from Bangladesh originally. Came to the States to go to college, studied engineering, computer science, did an MBA, and started in management consulting, as many people often do. Solved business problems, worked in software and tech solutions. I at some point went out to California, did some startup work there, came back to Chicago, continued to work in the space, and just have been involved in startups and that ecosystem for a long time. In between, I went to Motorola and joined their design team, so worked on a lot of mobile experiences. Had customers in including Telefonica in Madrid and places
Mm.
like that.
Oh,
Um, and the I guess the beginning of the last decade, I started my own startup called DemiBooks, and
mhm.
it was an app to make interactive stories. And it was
Oh,
used in digital
nice.
publishing and in schools. So that was a really amazing journey. We exited in 2015. And since then, I've been working on angel investing. I've joined, different angel groups, some funds. Have another startup in Bangladesh that I work on. And at the beginning of this year, decided that there's an opportunity in venture that really was worth going after. So what our fund does and will do once it's completely raised, we've started the process. We're operational now. Is we
Mhm.
invest in an area that a lot of VCs don't go into. Most VCs end up in software only. So we're
Uh-huh.
investing in connected hardware and hard tech. And hard tech is, material science. It's university-based research. Connected hardware could be anything that like an IoT device or something that's got
Mhm.
software and hardware
Uh-huh.
intersection. So that's one. The biggest difference, I think, is how we deal with diligence and risk. We use design and engineering to look under the hood and work with the earliest stage companies to sort of make sure their plans are solid and that they're from design and engineering to supply chain to how they're going to make it, what it's really going to cost, all of those things. And so by doing that, we reduce our own risk. So that's the second differentiator. And thirdly, we're not investing in, say, Silicon Valley, New York, Boston. We're investing in the US center. So there's a lot of
Uh-huh.
good valuations, really great people and startups and ideas and all of that. So there's a lot to do. So we're wish us luck. So
Yes, that's good. That's good. And what are good pitches have in common? What do you think?
sorry, say that again, Heba?
What do good pitches have in common?
Yeah, so that's interesting. So first of all, we're always pitching, like going back to
Yeah,
that idea, aren't
yeah,
we?
that's every
Um,
day, every
every day, every time, and for different reasons. Like we're always trying to project ourselves, and whether we're pitching somebody on the streets of Lisbon,
time.
or we're I just got off a call about an hour ago with a $3 billion fund of funds that invests in hedge funds, and they're not necessarily the right target for our investor base, but they liked the idea of what we're doing and are available to think about it and maybe open some doors and make some introductions. So pitches aren't always about like, what do I get out of it right now? It could be a longer period of time. It
Yes.
could be something that you can do for the other person too. Like, you never know. So it's
Hmm.
all about relationships, networking, all of that stuff. Look, I mean, there's a lot of information out there on a business pitch and what should be in it. Some general pointers first, and then I can maybe talk about a couple of things I look
Okay.
at. I mean, so first of all, you know, you have to look at what stage you're in, and generally startups start with people that know the founder, right? They start with friends and family, and I
Yes.
would probably just focus on startups, since that's a kind of a good media area to talk about. Um, but they start with friends and family because those are people that know you. And
Yes.
then they go to maybe angel investors, and then they go to venture capital firms, or corporate venture strategic investors, etc. So you have to sort of know the level of the person that you're pitching to, and often it's not easy to know that. So if you have access to database, and we could talk about tools too later, but if you're researching them, look at their website, look at what portfolio companies they have, if they're sharing it. A lot of individuals obviously won't be sharing that kind of info, but most funds will, angel groups will have a sense of what their thesis is, and how you might fit. Don't waste time
Hmm.
pitching the wrong people. Sometimes as founders, we love to sort of get in front of as many people, and you could practice. Certainly the more you pitch, the better you get at it.
Hmm.
Nothing wrong with that, but wasting time in the sales process is not really a good thing. So
Yeah,
getting a
true.
quick no, or avoiding people that are not going to be the right fit for you is also important, and you'll learn that over time. um, Also good to know that one meeting does not get an investment. It's a relationship.
Hmm.
VCs or investors like to say it's like a connection of dots, right? And it may take some time. I'm seriously looking at a company now for our fund that I met them 3 years ago, and nothing. We didn't do anything for 3 years, or I didn't do anything as an individual. But now considering it out of the fund because it may make sense for certain reasons. So you keep the relationship going. The guy always sent me his updates, always respectful. It takes the call if I need to talk to him. So just making yourself
That's
available
good.
sometimes
Hmm.
is nice. So I would just say that it's not just one meeting, and you're trying to just build a relationship. Sometimes pitches can be 5 minutes. It can be 3 minutes. It can be a minute in the elevator, right? The elevator pitch. Um, it can be a half-hour Google call. It could be in person if we ever go back to in-person meetings. So you have to tailor your story to the time you have, and get the summary of what you're doing and why it's interesting across, and also get to a next step. There's always a next step, and often if you're like too much in the weeds, like here's my product and here's how great it is. Like a big mistake is like always just talking about your product and never getting to the other parts, and never getting to any next step, never getting any feedback. So it's an art. But
Okay.
yeah, I'll pause for a second. I mean, I'll get into more details as you want.
Wow. Yeah, it's true. You need to practice. I think, like everything, you do it, the better you do it. But it's good to know.
I look for three things really. One is, who are you as a founder or as an entrepreneur, right? Um, I look for, what's your passion? Like, why are you doing this? This is the hardest thing people generally do, is starting a company, whether it's big or small, or big idea, small idea, whatever it is. It's a big risk. You're potentially working part-time, which means more hours, or you've quit your job, etc. So it's a lot of risk. Where's your passion? Like, why are you doing this? Um, and then I would also say, like, be authentic. It's important for you to come across as who you are, not somebody else, or come across as somebody that you think the investor would like. We can't all be rock stars, but we can be ourselves. Um, and know your facts. I think, like, just know the basics of your industry, and the details of what you're doing. Sometimes people don't, like, they'll have to refer to somebody else on the team, or my CTO knows that, or my financial guy knows that. But as a CEO, if you're the one pitching, it's your baby. People are investing in you and your team, obviously, but you have to know the facts.
Mhm.
um, and I think one other point is just being inspirational, because you have to inspire your team, you have to inspire your investors, you have to inspire yourself. Because there are days and nights when things get bad, and you're
Yes.
ready to quit. We've all been there, right? You're ready to quit,
Mhm.
and you keep going. So you have to show who you are. I started this fund. We we had our first closing like the day that the U.S. went into lockdown.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah. So check back in 10 years, but it's really sort of, and I stayed up all night thinking, like, hey, you know what, should I go forward with this? This is nuts. But sometimes the best vintage years for venture funds are these recession years. So,
Yeah, they
uh,
always say with crisis comes good things.
yeah, with crisis comes opportunity,
Yes.
and there's plenty. So yeah, you have to have faith in what you believe in, for sure. Anyway, so
And
that's
what?
one, like, know yourself
Yeah,
and
and what
get.
are the essential pieces of that story?
Yeah. And you had asked me earlier about authenticity. I think we
Yes.
were we were in a loop where I was talking about other things. And what do you mean by authentic? What does authentic mean to you? Like,
To me,
yeah.
be
Is there,
yourself, to be the way you are, not
yeah.
faking anything, and not showing, not behaving in the way you think the other people
Yeah,
expect you to be.
so as a founder, that's all you can do. But
Mhm.
how are you going to be authentic is interesting. Like, how do you think we should be authentic?
Well, I think it's being the way you are, no faking anything. What I do, I mean, I'm myself, and there is some people that love to be around me. Some people hate it, but that's the way I am. So the people that love it, they are welcome. The other
Yeah.
ones.
So
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 I
instead
think this is important. What do you
of,
think about what is authentic for you?
well, I was just looking for examples. One thing that people always say is have energy. Yeah, I mean, and that may be going back to the passion, but
Hmm.
have energy being, but you can't be over energetic. Like, I'm a little low key, I think, when I pitch
I'm
something.
a little.
Yeah, you're very high. Well, I mean, I'm also hyper, but when I do a pitch, or I'm coming across, I'm trying not to over exaggerate things, name drop all over the place, or like right from the beginning. Um, so I think it's a fine balance. Like, you don't want to just come across as somebody other than who you really are. and
Mhm.
and people might, listening to this, might be thinking, well, this has nothing to do with a investment pitch, because what about the problem, the solution, the my roadmap, my product details? That's important. That's part two. But
Mhm.
if you can't be likable, and you can't get across who you are, you're never going to get the investment, because at the end of
Yeah.
the day, there's many good, bad, great, ugly, whatever ideas and solutions, but people invest in people. And
Yeah, very.
only rarely would an investor invest in an asshole. Sorry for the language.
No, but I agree.
It's too compelling not to. Yeah.
Yeah,
But generally, people don't like to invest in people who are not nice people.
but I think
So
this is in life also.
Yeah,
For customers, you don't want a customer or work or buy a product if you
yeah.
don't trust the people.
And trust takes time. Trust
Yeah,
doesn't come. What happens?
but if you are not authentic, the people cannot trust you. That I think I cannot trust people when I think they are not authentic. They are not showing the real
Yeah.
themselves.
So I'm pitching right now for my fund. I need to go. Like I don't know if I now I don't know. There's two shows. Did I already talk about it? But I had a meeting with a $3 billion fund, and it's a say. I mean, I'm still myself, whether it's that or some friends who might want to invest in my fund. But the the idea is this idea of like being authentic is important because you are measured like the first time a fund manager is just it's like a bootstrapped startup in a way, yeah, because you're being
Mhm.
measured on your past history. I'm being measured on like what angel
Yes.
investment have I done before, what has that returned for people, do I know what I'm talking about, can I go and pick the right startups, will I manage and have a proper methodology, will I be sort of cautious with this as opposed to a reckless investor and all of these other things. So uh, you know we can make up a lot of stories, but I tend to be a little bit more on the facts. And in fact, if I could do better as a storyteller, because the the real need for what we're doing as a fund is important, because all these other startups that are in this space are not getting funding or guidance, and that's a problem we're trying to solve. So if I don't bring any passion to that, if it's just like, hey, I'm another vanilla venture capital guy, and yeah, it's a little bit different, or we have a nice methodology because we work for Google and Motorola, it's not enough, So people
Mhm.
measure you on why you're going to be different. So the next thing, actually, that might be might be the next part of it. The second thing I look for is like, why are you going to be different? Why you? Why should I invest in you? And here
Mhm.
you have the opportunity to get into all the basics of a pitch. So your problem, right? The one you're solving.
Mhm.
Why is it interesting? Why is it big? And big is important, though. Not every business is going to be big or venture backable, and that's okay. But if you are going to get outside money, then it needs to be big enough and needs to be interesting enough. So that has to come through. Why is your solution different? Like lots of people are chasing the same problem, right?
Mhm.
Copycat businesses, etc. Lots of approaches to solving similar problems. But why is yours better? Do you have some technology that you've developed? Do you have some intellectual property that you can patent? Which is important in the hardware world, by the way, more so maybe than software. Do you have some outstanding advantage in how you'll get customers, or are there people in your team that are just generally like super knowledgeable? There's got to be some differentiators, and that has to be clear.
Mhm.
um, then coming to the team, you always have to build a team, and I worry if it's just a single founder. So this is a catch-22 for the entrepreneur, because like, as you know, it's hard to make a team initially when you have to pay people and you don't have
Mhm.
funds to do it. But if the idea is interesting enough and worth solving, you will naturally, and you're a good leader, you'll naturally attract people. So it's a test to see, do you even have part-time help? Do you have people that have jobs, but they're giving you some time to make this happen until you can get funding, and so that's
Mhm.
important. That's pretty basic. You need to have a team. And then comes all the other details. So the plan, how are you going to go about this? What's your product development? How far along are you? What are the details there? Where is your sort of customer acquisition? How are you in? Have you built it? Is it in the hands of users? Is it coming out? How are you going to test that? How do you continue to sort of feed that, get the feedback and loop it back into your development cycle? Then your roadmap, like what does the next year look like, the next 1.5 years, the money you're raising, how long will it last? Those are all details. And
Mhm.
don't get too stuck in the weeds of those details, but just give enough so that you can get, you'll have next meetings, you'll have follow-ups, and you'll dive deeper into those details. So one, who are you? And two, why you? Those are the first couple. Should I keep going, or you have another question?
Yes, yes.
The last one is like, why us? So why do you want our check? And this is important to me because, or it's important, I think, to a lot of investors. There's differences and there's similarities between investors. At the end of the day, yes, we write a check. Like my fund will never write the largest check. We will eventually, but typically we won't write the largest check. And we're specialized in providing some guidance in engineering and design that's valuable. And so typically the people that want our money, at least in our, what we call the residency, value that. So we're testing whether that's a two-way street. Like, is it just the check, or is it also this other sort of expertise that we can bring to the table? Because if it's not there and you just want the check, maybe that's not the right investment for us. So other investors would have other criteria, and you should really have thought through what this investor brings and try to make that clear. Because there's lots, there's lots of startups, lots of investors, and it's a long journey. And really it's selection on both sides, not just on one. And the founder should also know what kind of investors they want. And the more mature, the people that have thought through it, maybe not the first check because you're desperate, you're trying to get money, but as you go through this process, you become more refined, and you will say no to investors because they don't fit your culture, fit your strategic purpose, cannot open doors, whatever it is. It's okay to say no.
Yeah, that is not the same objective in both sides.
Yeah.
It's interesting. And how many meetings do you have usually before you invest in a company? Because it's not just one, just say before.
Oh, in our process, we're looking at hundreds of startups a year, right? Maybe 500, 700 a year, at any level of detail. So we'll look at our methodology is we'll do a scan of so we have a decision sort of matrix. We look at certain factors. We kind of score each company based on whatever information they've shared. So if there's a deck, before we actually meet, we'll want to see the deck and get a sense that there's a broad fit. And that fit could be across all kinds of things like the product, where they are, the team, some of these things. But then we'll take the meeting, and then from there, if we have two types of investments. One is this residency where it's a product development stage, and we can help them with design and engineering type of guidance. The other is more opportunistic. It could be later stage. So we'll have, there's no set number, but they have to fill out some information. They have to send us more info. We then make a decision to move into diligence. And if we do diligence, then there's a diligence memo. Then we talk to a lot of other people, including our own network of experts. We may talk to some of their customers. We may talk to some co-investors. It just depends on the level of our involvement. If we're leading around, there's a lot more to do. If we're not, then we still go through at least half a dozen meetings before, I would say half a dozen probably on average before an investment decision.
Okay. Interesting. And do you use any special tools to make it easy? Because you say before, yes, say before that you have some tools that you use or that people can use.
Oh yeah, for the founders, I would recommend one thing that I don't know if all founders are doing is you could try to organize data in a deal room, like a Google Drive, because every investor will ask you for very similar things. So I think sometimes you have to put things like your incorporation documents, or if you're not incorporated, then you need to at some point. But if you've got any patents, etc., if you've got some financial spreadsheets, so a lot of things, instead of emailing them all over the place, If you have it in the deal room, you can limit the
Yeah.
access. You know who's there, so you have some control. And then with pitch decks, I would recommend using DocSend, because DocSend is it's free. You can restrict access. You can,
Nice.
you shouldn't create a lot of friction, but you can at least get the email of who is viewing your deck, and you get
Mhm.
interesting data like how much time did they spend on each page, how many minutes did they spend on the deck. Again, better control than just emailing all over the place and then having your deck also forwarded everywhere. So those are a couple of tools. I think you need something like Trello. I don't know if
Mhm.
that's as popular in Europe or not, but it's a CRM
Yes,
tool.
it's known.
Yeah,
Trello and Slack
yeah,
too. Mhm.
yeah. So Trello just for your own management of potential investors, people you're talking to, next steps, and just keeping tabs of that. Those are three tools I think that make sense.
Oh,
There
really
are
interesting. I have
yeah.
learned a lot, Graphic, today. And really
You
interesting.
you learned a lot about Skype.
Yeah, well, Skype, don't talk to me about Skype. No, and to close the coffee time, there is some tip that you would like to say, some words that for the people, the most important thing that you want the people to keep in mind.
Um, what is the most important thing? Well, I think this is a sales process, and it's successive meetings. You want to get to the next step. So you're trying to compress a lot of information into a short amount of time, whether it's 3 minutes or 30 or an hour. And so you want to have information in sort of maybe it's like different layers, so you can get the overview quickly, and then successive layers. And it's important again in the start. Like if you lose them in the beginning, then you've lost it, right? So who you are, why this is important and different. Sometimes also it's good to get Q&A, like go through the details in Q&A rather
Mhm.
than just keep going. And if you have too many slides and there's a lot of details, it's better
Yes.
to answer some of that through the Q&A. No, I mean, I think it's a great thing whenever anybody decides to take a leap and be an entrepreneur. And there's so many resources now everywhere, whether you're in
Mm.
Amsterdam,
Yes.
Madrid, or in Chicago. There's a lot of resources, local resources. There's groups, so people should reach out, not be afraid of making mistakes. And there's a lot of feedback that you should pick up when you're making a pitch. I think you can incorporate. The pitch isn't just
Mhm.
one document and then you're done. You're constantly refining it. That's why actually DocSend is a good idea, because you don't have to keep sending your PDF. Like you can just update it in the background, and that's the
Ah,
latest pitch.
that's good.
So get the feedback or ask for it explicitly. Even in a no, there's some good feedback right there. No, I mean it's a lot of things. Get started and try it.
Keep
So
moving.
yeah, be yourself. That's where I would start.
That's great. Really great. Thank you, Rafik. It was a pleasure to have you in the last coffee before, and the last coffee at the end of summer. So in August, I'm going to make coffees.
Is this the last coffee at the end
Yeah,
of
this is
summer?
the last one until September.
What do you
Yes.
drink? What are you drinking in the fall? What are you drinking? What
I'm
do you drink?
drinking coffee, but offline, not
Okay.
in
I
public.
thought you were going to shift to like beers or wine.
No, no, in August, I'm not having coffees online. So it was a pleasure to have you here for the last one,
Absolutely.
Rafik.
Thank
So
you
I
so
will
much.
upload the video. And
Yeah.
thank you for your passion.
Oh,
For,
absolutely. Thank you for yours. And I know we don't have a live audience now, but if people have questions, I'm Rafiq at dipaloventures.com. Maybe you can just put
I can
the
write it in the comments on the video.
yeah.
I can
So
write it down. And
yeah,
if people
people
have
know.
questions, they can contact you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And okay, awesome. Take
Enjoy
care.
your summer.
Bye.
Bye.